Hello, team. The Monday poll question at smirconish.com. Would you pay more for an American made product over a cheaper import? Do you go looking to buy American made products? More on that in just a moment. First, thank you to Play Gun Lake, the online casino and casino app. New York, Philadelphia, Detroit baseball, plus the pro golf tour, MMA fights, plus pro hoops, hockey playoffs, so much that you can live bet, wager, and watch. Live betting is better than ever on the BetParks app in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland, and the Play Gun Lake app in Michigan. Bet individual player performances in baseball, like player hits or home runs, RBIs, strikeouts, points, rebounds, much, much more for pro hoops. Whether your favorite team wins or not, there's always another way to win on the BetParks Sportsbook and online casino app and the Play Gun Lake Sportsbook and online casino app in the great state of Michigan. The only apps that I use for this purpose. You can play with live dealers right on your phone. You can play solo from wherever you are. Warm weather coming. You can be on a Jersey Shore Beach, or you could be wherever. You can be just enjoying Cash Eruption, 88 Fortunes, Cleopatra, the online slots, Walking Dead, Squid Game. All your favorite streaming shows are represented as well. You love to play, you play to win, you bet. So bet Parks and bet on the Play Gun Lake app. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what is already a momentous Monday, a momentous week. It is, I'll date myself and make a reference to Carol Merrill and Monty Hall and say it is a let's make a deal day. And of course, the devil will be in the details. But what am I referencing? Several percolating transactions that are coming fast. First of all, on drug prices. The president yesterday said that he'd sign an executive order aimed at lowering the cost of prescription drugs, looking to implement a policy that ties U.S. drug prices to what everybody pays around the globe. Trump said that he would be instituting a policy known as Most Favored Nation, wherein the U.S. government pays prices for drugs that are tied to the prices paid by other countries. Here's one example. Jardiance. You see it advertised all the time. The list price for the diabetes medication, Jardiance, $611 for a 30-day supply last year in the States, compared with $70 in Switzerland and only $35 in Japan. So the president today making an announcement with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. relative to drug prices. Secondly, Ukraine and Russia. This is interesting. I'll speak more about this later. It seemed like, there was an imminent deal on Saturday. I had to switch gears on CNN and do breaking news to talk about what was going on relative to Ukraine and Russia and Pakistan and India. The EU nations got together with President Zelensky and they said, we want a 30-day immediate ceasefire. There was no word from Putin. President Trump took the side of Ukraine initially, and the side meaning that they wanted a ceasefire deal and a meeting. And Putin wanted to have the meeting, and then there would be a ceasefire deal. So this bit of tit for tat went back and forth. The new story is that President Trump, is on the side of Putin. Trump's support of the Russian president's proposal, a switch in his position, had initially appeared to upend European efforts to bring pressure to bear on Russia and halt its war and hand a diplomatic victory to Putin. Bottom line is this. Zelensky now says that he'll be waiting for Putin personally in Turkey on Thursday. So is it a done deal that the two of them will be face-to-face? No, but it's looking increasingly likely. Is it a done deal that there's a ceasefire? No. Fingers crossed, that too increasingly likely. Deal number 3. This is good news. The last living American hostage being released today by Hamas. Hamas said that it would release the last American hostage held in Gaza after discussions with the U.S. This is Eden Alexander, being released as part of the steps aimed at achieving a ceasefire just as the president heads to the Middle East. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff expected to travel to Israel and pick Alexander up today. That seems imminent. That's number 3. Deal number 4, talks with Iran continue. This is kind of interesting to me because to read a number of press accounts, as I did this weekend, is to learn that Prime Minister Netanyahu not pleased, and a little bit of distance now between Trump and Bibi on the way that the Trump administration is handling Iran. The agreement here is that the talks will continue. So those are four really big things. And the lead story in the Smerconish.com daily newsletter today is this 90-day pause in the tariff war with China. The U.S. and China have agreed to temporarily but significantly ease the tariffs imposed over the last couple of months. In a joint statement that was released early this morning, the two sides said that they'd agreed that ongoing discussions have the potential to address the concerns of each side in their economic and trade relationship. Both parties committed to a 90-day suspension of most of the levies imposed since early April. The White House imposition of levies amounting to 145% on goods imported from China, Beijing's retaliatory tariffs of 125% on American imports, which had already cast a long shadow over global financial markets. But the futures today, as we await the opening of the Dow and the other markets, the futures seemed on fire. Today should be a robust day for the Dow and the other markets on the news that there's a 90-day pause. Again, the devil will be in the details, but those are five big breaking stories on this Monday. And relative to what I consider to be the largest of them, the economic news, the tariff news that I've just reported, there's a Wall Street Journal story that is in the newsletter today about the strain on small businesses. And this is interesting because it kind of comports with the conversations we've had here on radio, where I've had anecdotal report from all over the country about small business people who say, we're not built the way big business is to sustain this trade war. Many of us have personally signed. We're all in on our small businesses and we can't hold out for much longer. And then came the story of the Los Angeles port last week where those cargo ships were showing up and they were largely empty. The Wall Street Journal story begins this way. The owner of a San Francisco card game company cashed in his money market funds. The founder of a tent maker is looking for investors. A watch and jewelry company in Colorado holding off on signing a new office lease. And a New Hampshire consumer product company has laid off more than half its staff. Around the country, small businesses that import goods made in China are taking actions, big and small, to try to outlast the current 145% tariff regime on items from that country. But many are worried that their companies won't survive. Unlike larger companies, small businesses have fewer levers to pull to help them endure the new tariff regime. Most work with a single factory or a handful of suppliers, making switching production to lower tariff countries especially difficult. So my point is, and I selected that story because I thought it was really insightful even before there was a deal announced of a 90-day pause with China, because I thought that it presented well and with a lot of good data and anecdotal information how desperate small businesses are right now because of the tariff trade war. And to that end, circling to now today's poll question at smerconish.com, I want to know, would you pay more to buy American? Do you pay more? If you have a choice, and we don't often have a choice, but do you go looking to buy American products? You certainly do. Maybe shouldn't say certainly when it comes to an automobile. Although I don't know that anything is entirely made in the USA. My car, the Tesla Y, is the most American vehicle on the road, according to, who was it? I think cars.com. I mean, automobiles, you largely do have a choice. If you want to buy American, there are many more automobiles that are more American than others. Do you go that extra mile to buy American? That's what I'm getting to in today's poll question. Do you already go in search of American products? The reason that I'm asking this is that in the newsletter today, originally from Business Insider, and then it's one of those stories that was parroted by other news outlets, but it's one small business person who ran an experiment. It has to do with shower heads, but it looks to be like a real, apples to apples experiment testing whether his customers would pay more to buy American. And it had a very decisive outcome. A small business ran a clever experiment, says the story, to see if consumers would pay more for American-made products. The results were decisive. Raymond Van Meer is the owner of Afina, which sells self-filtering shower heads. So that's the product. Self-filtering shower heads. He was facing skyrocketing costs due to President Trump's 145% tariff on Chinese-made goods. To explore reshoring, Van Meer sourced a U.S. manufacturer only to find his production costs tripled. He said, "We make a $129 filtered shower head in China. With tariffs surging, we explored U.S. manufacturing." He explained all this on X. You can go and actually see his post. "We found a U.S. supplier. Our costs nearly tripled." Now, to test consumer appetite, Van Meer offered 25,000 shoppers a choice: the original $129 made in Asia shower head, or a $239 made in USA version, an 85% increase in price. At the conclusion of the experiment, not a single customer bought the American version. Furthermore, fewer than 1% got as far as adding the American product to their cart. You know how sometimes you add to your cart and then comes the checkout, maybe you change your mind? Fewer than 1% put it in their cart. 3,500 bought the cheaper model. It wasn't a marketing failure, he said. It was a referendum on price. And why does he say it wasn't a marketing fail? And I'm looking right now at the ad. Afina filtered shower head. 200,000 plus of these have sold. Removes chlorine, heavy metals, impurities from your shower for softer skin and hair. You can get it in chrome, you can get it in nickel, you can get it in black. And then very plainly, and with this explanation, due to the new tariffs, we've partnered with a small manufacturer in the United States that can also produce our shower heads. We're now offering our customers the option to choose between a USA-made or an overseas-made Afina shower head. Van Meer said that business owners often hear consumers say, "Hey, I'll pay more for a domestic product." But he was skeptical if they would really do so in practice. The results, he said, were brutal. Well, I know what many of you are thinking. I mean, it's another $100. It's all a function of, well, how much more would I have to pay? Isn't it? We want to bring back domestic manufacturing, but when consumers face the actual price tag, says this small business person, they didn't. It's not because they don't care. I think it's because most people are not willing to pay the premium yet. Van Meer said that his team ensured marketing for each item matched perfectly. They also ran the experiment over multiple days and multiple traffic sources. For a moment, we thought we'd made a technical error. We hadn't. The business owner said that he doesn't blame American consumers who have faced inflation and now an uncertain economy for years. Quote, "If policymakers and pundits want to rebuild American industry, they need to grapple with this truth." And I want to know if you agree with this, because this is today's poll question. Idealism doesn't always survive contact with a price tag. He sources partly from China and from Vietnam, which have both been slapped with U.S. tariffs. Again, the lead story today is some relief coming relative to China. Consumers are set to find rising prices across an array of goods as the consequences of the tariffs begins to trickle through Ford has informed car dealers that sticker prices are going to climb in June. Amazon, of course, we discussed this extensively, incurred the wrath of its customers, of the White House, when contemplating notifying its customers that they were going to have a line item and saying, this is how much is attributable to the Trump tariff. Question: would you pay more for an American-made product over a cheaper import? It's binary. You've got to say yes or no. Mine is a yes vote in some circumstances, but for a shower head, would I have gone from 129, to 239? No. There's a limit. There's a limit to my willingness, and perhaps yours as well. In my micro example, I remember when we were selling merch like a year ago, we had mugs and we had frisbees and we had fun stuff. It was cool. It was really neat. T-shirts. And I remember wanting an American-made T-shirt, and the price would literally have doubled. It would literally have doubled. And what would have been, a $25 item literally became a $50 item. And I thought people are just not going to pay, $50 for a T-shirt. Maybe at a concert you do, because you're all psyched about the music as you're running out the door. At least I am. And maybe you've got a beer or two in you and you're like, yeah, I'll spend, in fact, $50 would be a bargain for a concert tee. So that was my real life understanding of, you can talk a good game, but if you're a business person looking to move widgets, in the end, it's going to be darn difficult to go American. Go vote at smerconish.com on today's poll question. Would you pay more for an American-made product over a cheaper import? If you want to use the shower head example as an example in your mind, you certainly can. I'd pay more, but within limits. And in this example, no, not going to do it. So it's funny, because of the negotiations that Secretary Bessent has been involved with Chinese representatives. I wanted to do this question, and then the deal was announced very early this morning. It looked like it was going to happen as I was going to bed last night, and I thought, this is a great poll question. This is a great poll question. Vote now, okay? Would you pay more for an American-made product over a cheaper import? Like and subscribe, and set yourself up for notifications. Thank you, gang.